Right. Yay. Welcome to Weaving Spirit and Magic with Moonhill Mystery School. I am Karen Olson, and I'm so happy to be here. So today we are talking about the Wheel of the Year, and in particular, we're talking about Imbolc, which is a holiday that is at the end of January, beginning of February. Oftentimes, people consider it to be the 1st of February, and so. But we'll talk some more about that. So I'm going to pull up the screen share right now so you can see the presentation. So let's see, make sure we got the right one. Excellent. Fabulous. Alrighty. So glad you could make it. I really love doing this work and I love presenting this material, working with the Wheel of the Year helps me in my own personal practice of connecting to the Wheel of the Year. And so I really love being able to share this with you all as well. So, my name's Karen. I'm from Moonhill Mystery School. Let's talk about how we're going to spend our time today. And that is, first, I'm going to share a little bit about who I am and how I came to this work, and a little bit about Moonhill Mystery School. And we're going to create some sacred space together. We'll talk about the Wheel of the Year, not an overview really, but kind of anchor ourselves in time where we're at with the Wheel of the Year. And then we'll go into more details about Imbolc and what some suggestions are in incorporating celebrations of Imbolc into your life. And then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about some other classes that are offered by Moonhill Mystery School. So first, I'll go ahead and begin with my introduction. My name is Karen, and I have been working with the Wheel of the Year for about close to 20 years, almost 20 years now. And the draw for me really has been deepening my connection to nature and really examining how I can live more in time with the earth and the seasons, and really seeking to develop my personal connection with my earth-based spiritual practices. So I started working with the Wheel of the Year um, um, really in a solo manner, independently as my um, my personal spiritual practice began developing. So I originally started really by myself, just kind of considering uh, what what worked for me. I read a bunch of books. As you can see, I love the library. I love my own library. Um, I love to, I've been educating myself for a while. And I spend a fair amount of time kind of investigating like what makes it special, what makes it important, what makes it feel like a holiday. And so that's some of the things that we're going to talk about today. So Moonhill Mystery School started in 2020, and that Moonhill Mystery School is an earth-based spirituality school of enlightenment. And we seek to connect people to their own spiritual practices as a way to deepen their own experience of their personal spirituality, and with the intent of enriching their lives. So, those of you who are in this class in real time, you're welcome to drop any questions into the chat, and that will help me also make sure that I get any questions that might come up. So, the let's create a little bit of sacred space. So go ahead and feel the full weight of your body in whatever you're sitting on. If you're sitting in a chair or sitting on your bed or any any whatever place you're sitting, notice how your body rests there. If your feet are on the ground, notice your feet on the ground. Go ahead and take in a deep breath. Hmm. And if you are have a candle, this would be a great time to light a candle as far as a way to create sacred space. If you work with smoke cleansing, working with herbs like rosemary, lavender, sage, although we use sage very judiciously or very infrequently, garden sage is great. We want to protect the white sage plant so that it doesn't get over harvested. If you use smoke cleansing, you're welcome to light your incense or smoke cleansing wand in this moment. Hmm. Just take a moment to ground into this place. And in this sacred space, I like to call the directions. So I'm going to call on the energy of earth, rock, stone, loam. We welcome your energetic qualities into the circle. The energy of um, wind, air, the energy of air, wind, gale, breeze. We welcome your energetic qualities into the circle. The energy of fire, of candlelight, stove fire, bonfire. We welcome your energetic qualities into the circle. And finally, water, river, lake, and ocean. We welcome your energetic qualities to the circle. We call on the directions to help create sacred space, to help remind us of the four basic elements that are the components of each of us. So in this grounded space, let's move forward onto the wheel of the year. So I have an image of the wheel of the year on the presentation today. You might notice that this wheel of the year is flipped. So summer solstice is at the top and winter solstice is at the bottom. And we commonly see winter solstice being at the top of the wheel of the year. But I like to show this particular viewpoint because what I really would love for you to think about is the wheel of the year as moving, is it always changing and constantly kind of moving around in a circle, or even you could consider a spiral. So the wheel of the year, like I have gone around the wheel of the year for almost 20 years. So I have spiraled through this calendar that many times. Now, in this, experience of um, sitting with the wheel of the year every season, there's been years where I would maybe not celebrate, let's say Beltane, for instance, because life got in the way, things got busy, maybe plans changed, something might have happened. And so, as much as we intend to celebrate every holiday, sometimes that doesn't happen. So I just wanted to really encourage you. What I did actually my first several years is that I would often start in January, which is actually not my beginning of the year. And this, this creation of or this representation of the Wheel of the Year is great for thinking about this because I don't actually feel like the year begins in January. For me, the Wheel of the Year really begins in at the fall. That really feels like the beginning of the year for me. And so it's an interesting thought, about that. So, and even as I'm looking at this particular representation, it doesn't even follow in the normal way that we think about it as going clockwise. This Wheel of the Year actually goes counterclockwise, which is really interesting. This Wheel of the Year could be based also in the southern half of the southern hemisphere as opposed to the northern hemisphere because we're all the reference points that I'm making are all based on northern hemisphere experience. So February 1st has a particular energetic quality in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, it's actually going to be flipped. So we're going to be looking at instead of us looking at Imbolc right now, we're going to actually be living in the season of Lamas or Lugnasa on February 1st, which is the end of summer in the um, um, southern hemisphere. So that's kind of an interesting juxtaposition as well. So what I used to do though, when I started working with the Wheel of the Year is that in January, I would like make this like New Year's resolution commitment of being like, I'm going to celebrate all the holidays and I'm going to make something. I'm going to do ritual and I'm going to do crafting every single holiday. And I'd get through a few holidays and then things would fall away like they do with all of our New Year's resolutions. And so, I probably have not celebrated summer solstice and Lammas as much as I've celebrated a lot of the other holidays. For whatever reason, Samhain always gets in there. Samhain is in the United States, we call it Halloween. They're not the same thing, but they're at the same time of year. And so Samhain I've celebrated definitely for the last 20 years, if not more. So, in different ways, and the celebrations change and grow, right? Every time you celebrate, this is one of the things I love about the Wheel of the Year. The circular, spiral notion is that every time I celebrate, I pull in things that I really liked and enjoyed, and I let go of things that I tried that didn't really work. Things that were like maybe too cumbersome or maybe too difficult or maybe too complicated. And then maybe there are times when I'm able to take an, a strategy that I had used the year before that was really simple, and I was able to add more layers of interest or different ways of thinking onto that. So it just, it changes, and so it's a really beautiful experience to continually connect to. So, for anyone who is just kind of tapping into this for the first time, the Wheel of the Year is based on a more contemporary perspective. So, this is not an ancient religious practice. This is based on, in the 19th century, Gerald Gardner, who was the kind of grandfather of Wicca, developed this kind of every 6 weeks there being a holiday. And so the holidays of the Wheel of the Year are based on the equinoxes and the solstices as being anchor points to the center, summer solstice, winter solstice, fall equinox, and spring equinox being part of the kind of wheel of the year, and then the points in between are the other holidays. So after winter solstice, we come into Imbolc, which is what we're celebrating and talking about today. Next will be spring equinox, then Beltane, then summer solstice. After summer solstice, we have Lammas. And then after summer solstice, we have, after Lammas, we have fall equinox, and then Samhain in October, and then we swing back around to winter solstice again. So these holidays, this particular calendar is not very old. People have been celebrating the equinoxes and the solstices, or at least the solstices, for a very, very, very long time, like thousands of years. People have been celebrating the solstices. These points in between, there's some evidence that Beltane has been celebrated for a very, very, very long time. Um, the other holidays, maybe don't have as long history as we have thought that they did in the past. So, with this particular calendar, I would love for you to look at on the inner circle of this particular wheel of the year. They have the words growing, planting, resting, and harvest. And actually, it should be resting, planting, growing, harvest. So we are in the resting season. So we're in the time of winter, which there aren't a lot of things growing, and I'm located in the Pacific Northwest, and of the United States. And we have a very strong representation of the four seasons. So we experience a spring, a summer, a fall, and a winter, although our winters are very mild compared to other areas in the northern United States and Northern America. So we have a pretty mild winter. We get to experience snow, but it's only lasts for about a week, and we get to experience it maybe one, two, possibly three times in a year, and which I personally really enjoy, having the snow go away in a short period of time. And so, but we're in that resting period right now. We're in that quiet place, that fallow period. And this is one thing that I feel like our current culture doesn't create space and time for, which is for the fallow periods, for the quiet, for the rest. We are living in a time where we think the industrial growth society is the only way to exist, which has this like trajectory of constant growth and constant, we're constantly expecting things to get better, better, better. But that is not really how humanity works. And one of the things is, this constant growth strategy does not allow for any space for rest. So if we're constantly living in the growing season, we're not really creating any time for that fallow, quiet moment. So this is the quiet. So I totally encourage you to explore that a little bit. What does it feel like to live in the quiet? Um, so from winter solstice, in this particular representation, from winter solstice to spring equinox is the resting period. From spring equinox to winter solstice is the planting period. And from summer solstice to equinox is the growing season, which is pretty typical of our community. And then from the autumn equinox to the winter solstice is the harvest season. So that doesn't totally line up for your area, that's okay, or your climate air, the your local climate, that's okay. It's really about living in the energetics of that. And maybe you live in an area that doesn't have a very strong winter experience. It doesn't mean that you don't get to rest. It just means that, your winter experience might feel a little bit different, might feel more there may be less change in the season, but don't let that stop you from experiencing the downtime and really the other thing I like to refer to, the difference between winter solstice and summer solstice, is that summer solstice is our most extroverted self, and winter solstice is our most introverted self. So we often think of extrovert and introvert as the binary, as on the binary, but of course we know that's not true. We hold a little bit of both of those things, or more of one and less of the other. We are a combination of that. And so during this time of year, you might be thinking about how can you live in your most introverted self. What does that feel like to be in the most introverted place for you? And if you are identify as an introvert, this might be a really comfortable time of year. So this might be, you might feel like you're more powerful this time of year if being quiet and less socially active is more important to you or more nourishing to you. So we are heading into the planting season, and I like to think of Imbolc as like the pre-planting time. So I like to think of it as like the time when we're thinking about what seeds will we plant. So this is not quite the active place of planting seeds, but it is in that place of like, what is next for me? What seeds am I ready to plant? This is the time when we might think about like, um, literally looking at the plant catalogs and dreaming of the garden. That's part of what's happening now. Not necessarily putting in the plant seed order, but dreaming like, what kind of plants do I want to grow in my garden? And then you can use that metaphorically too, of what things are you looking to cultivate more in your life? What are you looking to develop more? But this is the dream place. We're in the dreamland right now. All right, so let's move on to the next piece. And so the next element is thinking about what makes a celebration. How do you celebrate? Like what makes a particular holiday important? And so because we're talking about spiritual holidays, and we're talking about things that are not a particular holiday that is not secularly supported, and not spiritually supported by the dominant culture. We have to invent ways or inspire ourselves to help ourselves feel like this holiday is important, it matters, it's valuable, and it has weight, right? So if you're not, this is a non-Christian religion, so a non-Abrahamic religion, a working with or I should say spirituality, working with the kind of pagan perspective, the earth-based spirituality, using the seasons as an anchor to your practices. One of the things I like to look at first is what is the energy of the season? And that's a lot of what we've been talking about, of like that quiet, restful, restoration, that kind of thing. So examine what the energy of the season is to see what might be, how can you incorporate that or augment that in your life? How do you create more rest? How do you change your schedule so that you can sleep more? That kind of thing. Like how can you incorporate more dream time into your life during this time of year? The other thing you might do is create an altar. And an altar is just a sacred spiritual space. So you might use deities on your altar. You might just incorporate the elements. You could represent earth, air, fire, water on your altar. You could put a beautiful statue that just means something to your heart on your altar. So there's lots of ways to work with an altar. Color, you can change the color of the altar to represent the season or the celebration that we're working with. One of the things to just kind of make a day special is clearing space. So making sure that your house is in good order before you celebrate one of these holidays, like Imbolg. Imbolg is great for that because it is kind of in time with that, like letting go of winter, kind of. Uh, by the middle to end of January, probably most people have put away their holiday decorations, their winter holiday decorations, whether that's Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, whatever those holidays might be, um, Yule, then usually those things are put away. But it might be a great time to think about, like, what else can I get rid of? What else can I let go of? Food makes a day, right? Almost every non-secular holiday, like Fourth of July, we have food associated with it. So most people think, if you ask what do you eat on Fourth of July, they'll probably say hamburgers and hot dogs. So having special food or a feast type meal can really help a celebration feel important, especially for those of us who are practicing solo, who are independent, who are maybe living alone, or those that their family members aren't earth-based practitioners. And so one of the ways is to create a feast for yourself. So oftentimes these days, I think it's common to, maybe have a protein and some vegetables as part of your meal. But when we're creating a feast, we want to have maybe protein, vegetables, carbs, a special drink, maybe a dessert, maybe some kind of the way that you make the food might be special, like the presentation is special too. So those kinds of elements can really help make a day feel important and special. You could do ritual on this holiday, and the rituals can vary wide, and there's tons of books and ideas about that. Divination is great to do on one of these Wheel of the Year holidays. I often like to do the year ahead during this time of year. So that's fun to do. You can do divination based on the 8 points of the Wheel of the Year. You could pull a card for each of the 8 points. You could pull a card for the 12 months of the year. You could pull a card for the 13 moons of the year. You could pull a card for every week of the year. You can do it a ton of different ways. And so doing those in advance is kind of fun to be able to do that this time of year, since we're culturally thinking of this as the beginning of the year, even energetically. It often feels more like the fall is the beginning of the year. So making crafts is also a common way for people to celebrate, just like Valentine's Day. Kids are making, well, they don't do it so much anymore, but they used to make Valentine cards for one another, homemade cards. And so crafts is just another way to kind of augment the celebration, and also I think extend the celebration a little bit too. I think of these holidays as really being not a singular point in time, not just the one day, but a series of weeks or days or weeks, or even if we think of every 6 weeks we have a new holiday, you could think of this holiday as occupying the 3 weeks before the holiday and the 3 weeks after the holiday. Really depends. Lots of people celebrate it different ways. Some people celebrate Yule or winter solstice right up until Imbolg in February 1st. So all that time is dedicated to Yule. And then when they switch it over to February 1st Imbolg, then that gets celebrated right up till March 21st, which is the spring equinox. So really dive into what feels good to you. To me, it feels a little bit better to kind of split the center of the seasons. So I typically celebrate 3 weeks before Imbolg, and then 3 weeks after Imbolg, and then kind of have a transition somewhere in the middle. And you can use astrological aspects to decide what that when that transition is going to be. That's another great way to, we use this this calendar, um, as there's fixed dates, and then there's um, uh, determined dates, like the solstices and the equinoxes fall within a 3-day period. But we think of Imbolg, Beltane, Lammas, and Samhain as having a fixed date of landing on one particular day. But I usually like to kind of expand that out a little bit and think of it. The energy, the peak energy of that holiday really is within a 3-day period. And there's an astrological association with that holiday as well. So, for instance, last year, we think of Beltane as being on May 1st, but last year the astrological Beltane fell on May 8th. So the astrological holiday could be also outside of those parameters too. So really what it comes down to is I want people to think about the idea of just celebrate. Like if you can't celebrate Imbolg until the middle of February, then do it. Like still celebrate it. Like don't let perfection, I think the quote is, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. So don't let it stop you from doing a celebration if you feel like you're not perfectly timed for it. So let's see, what's on the next share? The next. All right. So in bold, so this holiday is usually associated with the February 1st, but like I said, I like to think of it as that kind of window of time. The energy of the season is awakening, emerging green, rebirth, and promise of spring. So it has that like, emerging quality to it. I think of it as like, like emerging from the slumber, like, when you peek your head out from underneath the covers when you're still like all warm and cozy in your blankets, but you're kind of like peeking out to see what's happening in the world. That's the energy of this season. Some colors to associate with this time of year are white, green, and rose or light pink. And we think of the lighter colors, the kind of pastel-y colors, because as things are emerging from the ground or even emerging from the ends of wood branches, they are usually not their most vibrant. And so they come into a darker color as the season moves on. So some crystals that you might work with during this time of year are citrine, green tourmaline, rose quartz, ruby, and garnet. Also hematite. So some ways that you might do that is that you might wear those crystals on your body in a necklace. You might carry them in a pocket. You might keep them on your nightstand, or you might keep them in your you might keep them in your on your desk or next to your bed stand or something like that. So I think I might have to pause here because my kiddo's trying to call me. So let me see if I can respond to that. Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right. Moving along. So some herbs that you might work with are chamomile, rose hips, sage, honey, dragon's blood. So again, those herbs carry some of the energetic qualities associated with this time of year. Chamomile is very calming. Rosehip is really nourishing. Sage as well has kind of a bronchial clearing, which this time of year we can get a little bit like kind of that cough cold kind of feeling. Honey also is a great natural expectorant. Dragon's blood is really clearing. Dragon's blood we typically use as a smoke cleansing technique for the herbs in that way. Some crafts that you might explore would be uh, making Bridget's cross, and that is it's kind of like weaving grass reeds together in a particular manner that create this four-pointed star. Um, Creating some fire starters is another way to kind of celebrate the season. We're typically still burning wood or having a hearth fire at this time of year in my community. And making dough candle holders is another thing to do. The salt dough candle holders are the ones that I'm referring to, which is just a way to create something out of maybe ingredients that you have at home. Great, like I mentioned before, this is like a great time to do seed catalog prep. This is not actually starting seeds, although in some climates you might be able to start seeds. This is really still like we're in the dreaming place. And maybe towards the end of the Imbolc season or closer to spring equinox, you might be starting to actually plant some seeds in the garden and or even indoors to get those seeds a head start. That could totally be part of the energy of the Imbolc season for you. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So the feast. So I love to give a suggestion for a menu item because I think it's helpful to think about um, creating a meal. And this is one that you can share with loved ones, you can share with your family, you can share with your friends, or it's something you can make just for yourself. Um, so and candlelights are also associated with Imbolg. Oftentimes, this is still the dark of winter. We're coming out of the darkest point in winter at this point, but it's still pretty dark out. And so to celebrate the return of the light with candles is really helpful. So one of the things that I've done in the past is done a candlelight dinner for Imbolg, which feels very special. Like we don't usually um, burn candles in the, for no reason, so to speak. And so if we're burning candles like birthday candles or romantic dinner candles, it's a signal to our bodies, our minds, our spirits that something special is happening. So a candlelight dinner is a great way to connect with the energy of Imbolg. Also, milk is associated with Imbolg, and so doing a whole milk or coconut milk chai with your dinner would be really lovely. A salad with sprouted seeds, again, that like emergence of, green, that re-emerging kind of feeling. Asparagus with herbed butter, creamy rice, again, that like creamy, nourishing, really like feels good in your belly feeling. Pork chops or marinated tofu. I always like to give a non-meat related option for people as we are trying to be good stewards of our planet. I personally am not a vegetarian or a vegan, but I reduce the amount of meat that I've been eating in these last several years so that I have less impact on the industrial meat um, agriculture, no, system. I'm not participating in that system. I buy from local farmers. So breaded braid like challah is a great beautiful, again, that's like when I was talking about before, making something special that you don't normally do. So you might not normally make bread, or if you do normally make bread, make braided bread this time. And that again signals your body, your mind, your soul that something special is happening. And then custard pie, again, that connection to milk and that nourishing, really like, makes our bones feel good. Um, so I love to suggest that for the Imbolg season. So let's see what's next. All right. Am I recording? Did I press record on this? I think I did not record. Oh my goodness. Oh no, I am recording. Okay, good. Phew. Okay, I see the record button now. Phew-wee. I got a little nervous there for a second. So, okay. So, one of the things that you can do that I mentioned before as part of the celebration of Imbolc is divination. So I came across this really amazing spread for creating a divination for self-awareness, which again, and this is from Emerald Lotus Divination, and this spread I just thought was really lovely. So you pull 7 cards. Um, and the first card represents your subconscious. The second card represents how your subconscious influences you. The third card represents something in your life that I sabotage or that you sabotage out of fear. Um, and then number 4 is where this fear stems from. Number 5 is how can I avoid sabotaging myself in the future? And number 6 is how can I become more consciously aware of my subconscious? And number 7 is how can I connect with my higher consciousness? So I just really enjoyed this, felt like very illuminating for the season of dream work, of being in that dreamy subconscious conscious connection place. And this is a way to kind of reveal the subconscious or open yourself back up to, if you have lost your connection to yourself. It just felt like a great tool to use. All right. And then my other suggestion for us earth-based practitioners is thinking about connecting to the element of fire. So the 4 holidays that are the points in between are often considered the fire holidays. So with Imbolg, we often consider um, the the candlelight being the fire of Imbolg. Lammas is considered also a fire holiday, as well as Beltane and Samhain. I mean, Samhain is easy to see, having the pumpkin lanterns. Beltane, it was common for people to drive their animals over fire or to jump animals over fire or to jump over a fire yourself for good luck. We don't think of Lammas as being a fire holiday as much, and that may be because contemporarily or currently we are living in wildfire season in the northern United States. So we are not building fires in August. Let me tell you that, because we're trying to preserve our communities and not have them be subjected to more wildfires. So, a way to connect with the element of fire is to burn a candle, to light a fire within a fireplace, or burn a bonfire outside. Once you have this fire lit and this fire is available to you to be in communion with, my suggestion is to gaze into the fire for as long as is comfortable. And then once it feels a little uncomfortable, then gaze into that fire just a wee bit longer and listen to see if the fire has a message for you. This is a great way to connect with the element of fire. So it's about quieting your mind. It's about connecting into this element really in a conversational kind of manner from the standpoint of, stopping your busy life for a moment and really sitting with candle fire or a bonfire and really um, being quiet enough so that you can hear any messages that might come through for you. So, um, this is the end of our session tonight. We could have some conversations, and once we stop the recording, we will chat a little bit about any questions that came up during this information, and we will. Also, I'm happy to share that there's lots of ways that you can connect with me. You can go to moonhillmysteryschool.com to check out the other classes and courses that I offer. I love to offer lots of free options for connection points during the month, and then there's often scholarships available for anyone who needs some financial assistance. And I also do, in addition to online courses, I also do in-person courses as well. One of the courses I have coming up is Connecting with the Elements, where we'll spend an entire day with fire, earth, air, and water. Which I'm really looking forward to. The fire workshop happens in March, and we're going to spend the entire day with fire. I'm really excited about it. I'm also a psychic medium, which I didn't mention before, but I do intuitive psychic sessions with people, so you're welcome to reach out to me for some assistance if you'd like to get some information from the other realm. I like to say we have access to information that is not available on the web through the psychic realm. So I would love to be able to share that with you. And then finally, I also do spiritual coaching. So I help people create practices that are nourishing and that are just for them, exactly what they want to do, and connecting in ways that are helpful to them. So thanks so much for hanging out with us today, and I look forward to seeing y'all next time.